This is going to be a pretty quick video today. We're going to look at 3 shapes made by Homer Laughlin. They're all toiletware shapes, and they come from the very late 1890s and were produced into the early 1900s. So we're going to look at Arno, Catalina, and Superba. But before we get into these Homer Laughlin shapes, there's one thing I wanted to show. This is a half oar, or a half mouth oar, that was made by Vaudry. We see this nice embossing detail and this underglaze rose print. Now this is a salesman's sample, and I show this just in case you were to ever encounter a half mouth oar. You would know what it is. This one is marked with a VPCO, which is Vaudry Pottery Company. The bonita is the shape, and it's treatment number 980. So salesmen could use these mouth oars that are half the size. They didn't take up nearly as much space as a full oar. They were easier to lug around. So I just wanted to show that real quick on the off chance you ever encounter a half oar. It's not a vase, it's not a wall pocket, it's a salesman's sample. So now, looking at Homer Laughlin shapes, we'll begin by looking at this piece. It's called Arno. And this was listed in the 1899 catalog. A rather plain shape in comparison to some of the others we've seen thus far. Has this light swag embossing on the top, almost like the top of a heart on the upper portion. The lower portion has some light embossing details as well. We see the typical eagle and lion marking on this piece. This is the only example of Arno I have to show you. If this was made in the 1900s, it was not made for a very long time. This is rather difficult to find. Not the most difficult toiletware to find for Homer Laughlin, but it's up there. The next example is the Catalina shape. And we see the large oar and basin here. This is some crazing that has gotten stained. That's not supposed to be there. But the large oar and basin, even though the Catalina shape was only made for a few years, the large oar and basin continued on into the 1920s. So this will be much easier to find as a blank version than these smaller decorated pieces. So this is a Catalina mouth oar with an underglaze print. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the treatment number, but it has that typical eagle and lion back stamp that you're going to see from this time period. Again, late 1800s to early 1900s. We have a decorated example of the large oar. This is dated 1913. We have a shaving mug. We're going to look at that shaving mug in a minute. And then we have the Catalina soap dish. Now this was hand decorated by somebody outside the factory, and normally I don't purchase such pieces, but this was well done, I have to admit. It wasn't signed. Has the eagle and lion back stamp. Again, Catalina soap dish. And we're going to look at this mug in a minute because I want to go over the next shape, which is Superba. Now this is a little more easy to find. This was produced into the about 1906 or so, maybe even a little bit later, because Mingo, Wyoming, Bridal, and Duchess, the 4 shapes that follow, they pretty much take over as the dominant toiletware shapes, and ones like Catalina and Superba sort of get left behind. In the back we have a rather impressive slop jar, and has an interesting gold tracing. Well, this is not gold tracing, this is hand decorated gold. There's nothing being traced here. But this pattern, this lattice and leaf pattern, must have been very popular during this time period because other potteries did this as well. We see a small mouth oar with the same design, and there are some potteries that have this lattice and leaf that is embossed into their wares. So I don't know the proper name for this type of decoration. I'm sure it does have a name. I've just not been able to find it yet, but you're going to find this on many other potteries of this time period. So our slop jar has this pink accent going on the foot and on the lid, and then you're going to find this plain version. And this is treatment number 1340 with all this gold decoration that all would have been done by hand. We have an undecorated large oar from Superba. We can probably see some embossing detail on the foot, rather pronounced foot. And you're going to see embossing around the spout. Another large oar from Superba with an underglaze ship print. Let's see what the marking on this one is. Yeah, eagle and lion. That's going to be typical for these shapes. And a covered soap dish, underglazed print with filled-in details. You look at the foot, and eagle and lion. Brush face. Now this has a different mark. This has a marking that you would probably find on like Colonial and American Beauty early dinnerware sets as the circle mark with the eagle and lion. And this one says semi-vitreous china at the bottom. It does not have the shape name. Again, none of these Laughlin toiletwares are going to have the name of the shape in their back stamps. We have 3 examples of shaving mugs to look at. Underglazed print, filled in details, eagle and lion, gold stipple, generic Homer Laughlin back stamp. Probably dates from about 1906 to 1910, roughly. Another underglazed print with filled in details and gold trim, eagle and lion. And we have another Maltheur here. And this will have a treatment number on it, 2083S. And that S stands for stipple. For all this gold stippling, this has all been done by hand. And we see this Ring of Roses treatment. We'll see this on the Mingo shape when we get to it. And one last piece of Superba I want to look at is the Cupid decal. Not a decal, beg your pardon. It's an underglazed print in blue. It would have been done in several different colors. We see them on the other side as well. And it has gold trim. Now what happened on this particular piece, they put the treatment number as 1278.5. Well, the half implies that there would be no gold trim, but there is gold trim. So they tried to rub it out the best they could, and then they put the correct treatment number over here, which is 1278. So the half is no gold trim, and if it's just a regular treatment number, then it probably does have the gold trim in this case. Now if we look at the Catalina shaving mug, and it has this smaller version of the Cupid decal, which is somewhat odd. It's got a head with wings. What's on the other side? Just a floral print. It has the proper treatment number, 1278.5. The half meaning no gold trim. And we see our circle mark again, semi-vitreous china. So that's a little bit about Arno and Catalina and Superba. Again, Superba is going to be easier to find than the other two. Next time we're going to start looking at the 4 big shapes, the Mingo, Wyoming, Bridal, and Duchess. There will be a video for each one of them. So that's it for today.